welcome back to Weatherford Daze. I'm Rachel, this is Jason, and we are in the middle of our pirate movie month, right? And we're thrilled that you are joining us once again today. Or if you are here for the first time, welcome.
I don't know what that meant. But we're in the third movie that we're film that we are kind of delving into.
So we're past the middle and towards the end. How do you be in the middle of 4 episodes?
We're the 75%.
We're in the middle.
75% marker. Yeah, and it's interesting. Except for the first and second movie, if we were to flip those, you could actually almost build a timeline of the pirate movies over the years, if you think about it. Because
Interesting.
Right, because if you think about it, you've got the movies you got the silent movies of the late 20s, and those were humdingers. And then you get into the 30s, and you got stuff like Errol Flynn, which we really liked. And then you get into the 40s, which was Tyrone Powers, and then you get into the 50s with Burt Lancaster. Yeah, toward the tail end of that, and then you get this whole period where nobody wants to make pirate films, and there gets kind of persona non grata. What is it? No.
I'm sure there were pirate movies.
There were, but they were, they were kind of a money sink because you couldn't make money off of them really, because I think people had kind of, seen those, been there, done that, and then they came back in with the Pirates of the Caribbean stuff, kind of reinvigorating it and showing that it really could be a success.
You still had like Peter Pan and Hook and those kind of
that's true. That was in the 90s.
Yeah.
But wasn't
there was stuff before Pirates of the Caribbean, but
yes.
Yeah. There's so many good pirate movies out there. I think that it's just a genre that captures the imagination, captures the heart.
Yeah, you get
especially with kids, I think.
And you get the exploration, but you also get the more, and we'll talk about this, but the more realistic you get with it, the more you're going to be sticking a sword in somebody, and you're going to be causing mayhem, and parents tend to push back from that.
Being realistic is not something that today's feature film can be accused of. We are covering The Crimson Pirate
from 1952.
Right.
Which was the tail end of the pirate era.
Oh my goodness. Though, I feel like this one got a little bit more of the stereotypical pirate type, thinking and stuff than our last two. Because the last two, it's like, even though it was technically pirates, our main characters didn't seem like they were really pirates necessarily. And for this one, these guys were definitely had the pirate mentality.
Gold, stealing, and plundering for plunder's sake. For just the sheer joy of piracy, of being a thief or a robber, a scoundrel. And the other guys, they had a purpose.
Our captain did kind of stumble off the pathway.
Yeah.
He actually apologizes to his crew for getting pulled off of his path, off of the pirate path.
Yeah.
I'm like, that to me was hilarious. But overall, even though there are some elements that are serious, this movie does not take itself seriously at all. It is absolutely just
It's kind of a lark. It's silly.
It is a lark. It's
farcical.
Fun.
Yeah.
As much. I was telling you that it reminded me of kind of what Bob Hope and Bing Crosby did in the Road series.
Right.
Just being, completely ridiculous and over the top, but without the music. And I felt like this actually could have done well as a musical.
It could have had music in it,
yeah.
Probably. I didn't think about that, but yeah, it would. A lot of the sets just look like they would just work well with that. What was?
But instead, they kind of went over the top with the acrobatics, and then just for some reason at the end threw in a bunch of science, like invention stuff, just because
tanks.
They could. They had a submarine,
flamethrower.
A flamethrower, a balloon.
Yeah.
Yeah, hot air balloon. Just it.
A lot of shenaniganizing. What was that, shenaniganizer from Cloudy with a
It
Chance?
kind of felt like a Jules Verne lover got, kind of sucked into the writing of this and went, hey, why don't we just throw some of this stuff in there? Why not?
I would expect what was it, the Wonka Vader to show up in this movie. It's kind of kooky.
And it was really kind of at that point that it was just like you went from kind of being able to take this seriously as a story.
Yeah.
If you to just like what is even happening, they're not even attempting to tell a serious story at this point. This is just
no. And two things I'll point out, or they're actually interrelated, is the costuming. There's quite a few times when I just could not. There's a particular character I could not not look at his breeches. I know that sounds weird to say on a podcast, but his poofy pants, his poofy shorts were just like, what even is that? That's not. I mean, is that even like
the costuming
respectable?
Was so over the top, and it was ridiculous.
Colorful. Oh, colorful. Let's talk about that. This is in Technicolor. Now I know that the Black Swan was in color, but a lot of more of the colors were more muted. It was darker colors. But this one, they just went, let's put the guy in striped pants in the last part. And I was like, okay, taking advantage of the Technicolor.
I mean, you have to admit, though, the striped pants were better than the balloon shorts.
Yes, they did. I was telling Rachel later, I said, when someone goes to like a Spirit Halloween store and they say, let me get the pirate, not the sexy pirate, but let me get the pirate. It looks like something from this movie. Those lycra pants with the stripes and the patch and the little sash here and there, and it's just like it just looks like what this movie would have created.
Mm-hmm. But considering, I felt like the way that they treated the costuming, the way that they treated all of the the pirate jargon and the commands and the gather rounds and the come on lads and heave ho and all of that.
Yeah, that's his tagline. He's like, gather round lads, and that's just he says it like 5 times. But go ahead.
But they treated it the same way as they did with the plot. They went over the top with it so much so that it really just.
Was it like the old Sinbad movie? Remember the old Sinbad movies from the 50s as well?
I don't know. I feel like the Sinbad movies, you can actually, you can believe it.
Yeah.
They're over the top, but it's because of the filmmaking.
Okay.
Of the way that they're trying to put these special effects and stuff in there. It wasn't over the top just to be over the top, to the point where it was like there's no longer any ability to suspend belief and have a plot left.
Yeah.
You just.
And those are very memorable because of some of those creatures and effects that they put in there.
Yeah. But it was based on some really just fun, good stories that actually made sense. That when you deconstruct it, there's still meat to it. And this one, we're going to actually attempt to find a plot to it, and I think that there is some meat to be found, but for the most part, I don't think that it's meant to be taken seriously, and I think that you can just have fun with that.
I do think this movie is more for those who are like, I wonder if I can show my kids. Yes, you can. I'll just say that because I will tell you, there's a part at the end that they don't buckle one swash. What is that with swords? Buckling swashes has swords with it. Anyway, there's no swords on this one part. They have clubs. So they might as well have boffers, pool noodles, as far as how fun it is on that. No sword to be had. No bloodshed that I could tell. A lot of acrobatics, which you might find interesting. And, I didn't know this about Burt Lancaster, who's the main character, captain in this. His background is actually in the circus. And his guy he worked with a lot, his name's Nick Cravat. And he plays his sidekick in this, his mute sidekick. And he said, hey, buddy, I'm going to be with you anything movie that I do, you get to be in it. You're going to be my trainer, my stunt guy. They worked together on 8 movies. I did not know that. But I always thought Burt Lancaster was more of a dramatic guy. In this, he shows this was my bread and butter, was flipping around and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I was actually surprised, so. But yeah, there's a plot here. I promise.
Yeah. Well, speaking of.
Okay, so now just to let you know, the movie does start out with him kind of, with the main character, Captain Vallo, played by Burt Lancaster, kind of breaking the fourth wall. And he says, "Gather around, lads," and he's talking to us in the movie theater, and he's saying, don't believe in what you see, believe in half of what you see. And it's kind of like, oh, okay, he's kind of getting us set for, this is unbelievable, or this is kind of crazy. And we get started.
I thought that was really fun and kind of unique. I don't know that I've seen a lot of movies start out that way.
I've seen some where they address the audience as the first thing you see, and it kind of it does set the tone. Mm-hmm. You get any kind of narration that you get from a character in it. I was thinking of Galadriel and Lord of the Rings, but it kind of sets that mood. And this one definitely sets the mood. It's going to be fun, and you're not going to believe your eyes. Anyway, so Captain Vallo, very flamboyant, Caribbean pirate, great teeth, the best teeth I've ever seen on a pirate. Sorry, he must have a good dentist out on that ship. All right, so they are capturing a Royal Navy frigate carrying a guy named Baron Gruda. He's the king's special envoy, and they do this by pretending to be dead of scurvy. Now, I was watching this movie going, how long are they gonna just lay there? It seems like they lay there waiting for like hours, waiting for them to come in there. And I'm like, this is the plan that just happened to work. Anyway, Gruda is traveling to the island of Cobra, where there's a rebellion led by a guy named El Libre. They don't give his real name. It threatens the king's control of the island. So they make a deal, Vallo and Gruda. Vallo is going to let Gruda and his men go, but keep their ship. And they make a deal where he agrees he's going to capture El Libre for him and give him to him for a reward. Some kind of gun running thing. I was kind of confused as to how this was going to work out. And I think as soon as they started getting to the adventure, I was like, all right, I'm in. But this kind of deal they were making, I was kind of confused about for a second. I don't know why I was.
I think the thing that struck me the most in this, and I do want to mention it, because it was very, right off the beginning, you're going, okay, we're suspending disbelief. This is, going to be entertaining. We've kind of set up that. But then it was actually a bit jarring because you have this pirate captain and his crew who have obviously planned to take over this ship, but apparently the captain has not told any of his crew what he's actually planning. And so immediately, as he's trying to actually go, well, we're not going to just capture the ship, because apparently he knew that they had arms and that his crew were all looking for gold.
Right.
And he didn't tell them his plan beforehand, though he could have. And he's going to negotiate that he's going to get money from this Gruda guy and then double cross and sell them to El Libre, but then double cross and he's got this entire elaborate plot that his crew was not on board with, and that they're challenging him over the very idea of doing it, which
it seems like he's adding steps. The crew is like, we could just steal money. Money is, gold is, you can instantly translate that into money, and we get food and we get whatever we need. And he's like, no, we'll take the guns and we'll sell the guns and do this thing.
Do they not know their captain? This looked like this was just a part of his personality and his character.
Right.
That this was something that he was going to do, but his crew was completely blindsided by him and his crazy ideas. And I'm going, how do you get to be the captain of a crew on a pirate ship and have no loyalty, or they don't know who you are at all?
Is this his first rodeo with complex
are
stuff
you
like
all
this?
meeting for the first time here? And if you're meeting for the first time, why is he the captain anyway if you have no confidence in his abilities to plan and do something. Like, why? I mean, obviously, for the storyline, we needed to have a conflict. We'll get into that.
Yeah.
Between the captain and his whoever, this guy that's speaking up against him. Because you really just have, the captain and his sidekick, and then you have this one very...
Is it Bellows? Humble Bellows.
Right.
Yeah,
You've got Bellows, who's
like second in command.
Really not happy about the way that things are going, and is challenging the captain at every turn.
Mr. Poofy Pants is
the
Bellows guy.
He was the Poofy. But yeah, it didn't make sense to me.
It sounded like there was either he came up with it on the fly, and he was going, "Oh, this would be a good idea," or this is his personality.
But if it's his personality and you've traveled with somebody enough to actually trust him and sign on with this person as your captain, then you should be willing to give him, there should be, there should be some loyalty that's developed here over time.
Like, that's our captain. That's what he does. He, I trust him. He's got a plan. And they're just kind of like, what?
But it seems like they literally all just kind of stumbled into this whole pirating gig at this moment, and yet this captain has a reputation. We find out.
Well, in the opening, I just thought of something while you were talking. There's an opening, as soon as he says, get ready, lads, and here's the story. It says the Crimson Pirate, and it shows him in different garb, pointing and saying, "Go here and go." So it looks like there is a history. This is not his first, mission with this crew. You're right.
It makes no sense for this tension to be happening at this point.
Unless this is the fourth, crazy, shenanigan that our captain has gotten us into, and we've had it up to here. We're done with it. Maybe that could be.
But see, the thing is they show Bellows and some other crew talking later on, where they're like talking about his ability to get them out of stuff. And they seem to have, some confidence in their captain at that point.
Yeah.
In him to be able to get them through this. And yet Bellows has no confidence. And I'm going, why is he even in that position? Why is he there? Because Vallo must be absolutely an idiot to have this guy, unless he is brand new with this crew, trying to actually get their loyalty and their confidence in him. Yeah, it leaves a lot to the...
There is a thing in writing novels and in plotting out novels. I think it's called pantsing, where basically it means by the seat of your pants. I don't know if you heard of it, pantsers. I learned a little bit about the script writing of this. It was a lot more serious, and the plot wasn't as crazy as it was, and they kind of veered off with that and then started plotting by the seat of their pants. So there was a lot of this stuff is it's kind of like here we go, and then we just go. There's not a lot of thought given to the complexity. So that's why it feels that way.
It almost feels like you had a
weekend,
a couple of writers that were having the exact same relationship as our Captain Vallo and his mate Bellows.
You're not too far off in terms of, I think there was 2 writers.
That's unfortunate, because this could have been... They managed to make something that is good and that is fun.
Yeah.
There's no denying that this is really fun and that there's a lot that is really good about the story. But then you have these things that just kind of pull you out of it, and you're going, wait, what? Why? But we're barely into it, and I'm already
the what
going,
and the why. The what and the why. They don't want you to think about that too much, because very quickly, Captain Vallo and his buddy Oho is his name, played by Nick Cravat, the mute guy. They go onto the island, and they have to. Tell me if this is wrong. Okay, I'm trying to figure this out. They had to prove to the people that they're down with the revolution, and so they have to mess with the local gentry, the local police officer guys is what I thought of them as, soldiers and things. They had to kind of mess with them some, and that shows, they're on our side. And so they get on, once they get to the island, they are just there. They're just there, just kind of well, hi everybody. Hey, then that darn El Libre. Maybe if we could talk to him, we'd be on their side. And all of a sudden, the cops come around the corner, and they're like, oh, we're over here, no, we're over there, and we're doing acrobatics and bouncing and sliding down clothes, things.
For such a minor plot point, it takes a lot of time. Was my opinion. I mean, basically, yeah, they go, we want to be able to sell the guns that we've taken from the King's Navy to El Libre, who's like the leader of this revolution. So in order to sell him this stuff that we have to prove that we can be trustworthy, and we have to get in contact with him because he's apparently really difficult to actually get into contact with. So they're going to prove that they're trustworthy by proving that they're against the king. So, yeah, they basically just create some mischief, and the rebels end up taking them in and hiding them from the king's men. Why? I don't know. Again.
In a fish pot or something. Yeah.
They do. But then the rebels don't actually trust them, right?
Right.
And they end up knocking them both out and tying them up.
You do meet Consuelo. You find out Consuela.
Yes.
And she is the daughter of El Libre. And they do find out that El Libre is not locatable because he's been captured.
He has been captured.
And he is on another island called San Pero. And so they've got to go there. So
I mean, yeah. If you're going to be able to actually sell guns to... Should we say guns? We probably should believe that. If you're going to sell arms to a rebellion, then the rebellion leader can't be imprisoned. So he's now on a rescue mission. But Consuela actually, they're not going to trust him. They're not going to have anything to do with him. And then Consuela's like, yeah, no, actually, I want you to come and rescue my father. And he's like, okay, cool, let's go do that.
He pretends to be Baron Gruda, and he goes over to try to get the authorities to release El Libre and the prisoners into his custody. And there's a scene where he actually dresses up in like royal finery to try to look all awesome. I remember that. I don't know if this is the right scene or not. Mm-hmm. But he comes in and just effortlessly becomes the part. And that's more of a Burt Lancaster thing than I think it is a Vallo thing. Now, Consuela finds out that Vallo is not all a good dude. He's gonna turn her
after they rescue El Libre, her father, and the scientist that's with him.
Right.
Which I didn't
Prudence,
understand.
is that his name? Yeah, Prudence.
Did you catch why the scientist was actually being imprisoned? Like, for some reason, he's gotten on the bad side of the law, but he seems like a perfectly nice guy.
Well, it may be that he has some things that are dangerous, because he's
sympathized with the rebels.
He's got nitroglycerin, which makes
we don't really know why he's there, but he's there with El Libre, and so they rescue them both.
Yes. So Consuela wants Vallo to help them with their revolution or something like that, and Vallo actually starts out and he refuses.
Which they're already kind of falling in love at this point for some reason.
The plot says so.
Yes. There's no real reason why she would be at all. I mean, other than the fact that he's handsome, but really he's given her no, seriously.
He's got great teeth, and he's kind of buff, and he flips around a lot.
Yeah. I guess
worked for Tom
if you've
Holland.
Just got a handsome, very charismatic person that comes swooping into your life, and he rescues her father, so maybe that's enough. Then you decide that you're falling in love with.
Well, many times in those movies it was enough, and we kind of roll our eyes about it. At the time, people were like, they watch it and go, "Oh, that was a great picture." But we think about things like that a lot more now. Because movies started to become more realistic as the 50s, 60s, 70s came in. It was more gritty. It was, but back then it was like these are the things when we think about classic movies, we're like, we kind of like that about them, that they were kind of simple in that way. But we also know that's not realistic of how relationships develop. But, that's another way in which they want us to suspend that disbelief, and we kind of go with it, and and it's fun.
I guess just, the Black Swan gave us a little bit more
Yeah.
to the romance and why they fell in love with each other, and the growth of that romance. And I feel like Captain Blood also did as well.
Yes, I was
This
about to say that.
one
Yeah.
just really, I feel like you didn't really understand why these two ended up liking each other, so much so that she's asking him to come with them and join the rebellion, and he's, really conflicted, and he's willing to, as a pirate who doesn't seem like he really has any true ties to anything. He doesn't have, honor or that moral compass that we talked about with Captain Blood. Yet he is willing to betray his own men and their desire to get this, the money for her.
Yeah.
So,
well, the Poofy Pants Humble Bellows guy, he overhears this whole plan, and he goes, "All right, our captain has betrayed us."
Which you have to mention the fact that the way that he overhears this plan is apparently by hanging over the side of the ship and sticking his head in water and listening through a window. And somehow he hears over the side of the ship, over the side of, the ocean and waves and wind, what they're saying. A conversation inside the ship through glass and wood or metal. Yeah, he hears this.
He rolled really well on his perception check. All right, so Vallo lets El Libre and Consuela leave, but the king's soldiers are waiting for them. I think probably because Baron Gruda has been like, yeah, I don't think that's going to go well.
At this point, no.
How did the king's?
Because Bellows, when he overheard the plot,
he sold them out. He sells them back out.
Yeah, he sent a message. He had the guy swim. Remember, he was like, "Don't worry, sharks don't ever attack a man unless they attack him first."
Unless the man attacks them first.
The sharks don't attack anybody unless they get attacked.
I was listening to that going,
really?
No, actually, if you splash around a lot and they're hungry and they need blood, they'll go take a nip out of you.
Yeah, but
they may not eat you, but they'll
the guy
bite
take
you and
a
go spit you out. Yeah.
To them, so he sells them out, and then the British come and they're waiting for them when he goes to send them. So they double-crossed the double-cross of the double-cross of the double-cross.
Confused yet?
Right.
El Libre gets killed. Consuela is captured. Vallo and the crew are divided. Some want to do one thing, other want to do another.
El Libre being killed doesn't seem. No, El he's not actually killed.
Oh, well, we think he is.
Sorry, we think he is, yeah.
So the pirates have a mutiny, and they elect Humble Bellows the new captain. Now, does Baron Gruda capture the pirates and take them prisoner at that point?
Yeah, and that's when he sets them, or they put them in the boat, chained, without food or water, and they're just going to be set adrift for having betrayed the pirate code.
It reminds me of it's like, oh, I'm going to put them in a death trap. Are you going to witness them dying? No, I'm going to go do something over here. But that's so that they can, they're not dead, so they can, of course, escape.
Well, basically, they say the captain has to go there, and then they give the professor the choice of whether, how he wants to do. And the professor's like, I'll go with him. And then they ask.
I like Ho-Ho. That's
funny. They say, they try and get Oho to join them and betray the captain, and he acts like he's, untie me, and then he goes and attacks them and starts fighting.
He communicates in what looks like a baseball, sign language order.
You end up with the three in the boat, and they're going to be set adrift.
They'll be fine. They'll get it, I'm sure.
You're not going to tell what happens?
Well, how do they get out of it? I didn't really.
The professor the professor is like,
Is that where they do the
that's where they flip.
Okay, yeah.
The professor decides
they flip
without
the boat.
explaining what he's going to do to the other two.
Yeah.
He just decides that he's going to capsize the boat. And so the boat sinks down to the bottom of the ocean.
Captures air pocket.
But there's an air pocket. And they're like, oh yeah, well, science means that sometimes you'd have to just experiment and see what happens. They're like, yeah, this might not have worked. You could have killed us. Well, we were going to die anyway. And then they just walk along the bottom of the ocean bed until they get to the beach.
And they come out of the beach looking like a submarine.
Somehow they're able to tell directions while they're in a pocket of air inside of a ship.
Uh-huh. Yes. What's your problem with it?
Right.
Right.
Yeah, no problem with that whatsoever. And then they just continue to run around underneath the stupid boat for like the next 15 minutes.
Yeah, well, there's other people with their own boat.
Yeah.
And there's a whole little thing where they bump into something, and
the entire scene was just
it's kind of Three
crazy.
Stooges. But it reminds me of the Mystery Science Theater 3000 mantra, which is repeat to yourself, it's just a show. I should really just relax. And so there's so many movies of the time that kind of force you to do that, and you kind of have to just go, okay, I'm gonna put logic to one side, and then go with it.
I mean, of course, honestly, this was the point at which any ability to take this movie in any way seriously just went completely out the window. Yes, you
some people have
the boat,
their moment.
Then we run
this was
around.
Rachel's moment.
Yeah, but honestly, this was the point also at which I just kind of went, okay, I'm just going to have fun and enjoy this. Because before that point, I was actually trying to take it seriously. And after I realized that this can't be taken seriously, I ended up having a lot more fun watching the movie.
Yeah. I think that's when you went, I could tell. So Baron Gruda is going to try to get Consuela to marry the governor of Cobra.
Who's an old man. He's kind of he's just going to, is she going to be part of his bevy of, what's it called? Poopsie whoopsies? What are they called? Hoopsie doopsies? Yeah.
He has these three women that are hanging out with him. He calls them the hoopsie doop whoopsies or something. I don't know. Go figure. All right, so I guess she's just going to be another one of them. But the wedding...
he's actually going to marry her because he's going to control the people through her because she's the daughter of El Libre. So somehow she has...
pull with them or something?
Right.
I don't know. That of course...
That didn't make sense.
Well, he thought it would, but I don't think it's going to work.
They force her to marry him by showing that her dad's still alive and he's being beaten and tortured. So that ensures her compliance with the marriage.
And aren't they going to do like the marriage as a big ceremony? And so that gives...
Right. They have a huge parade and they tell the people to fill this big silo with like 10,000 bushels of grain or something.
And that comes into play later.
Yeah.
They don't fill it with bushels of grain, I'll tell you that.
Well, they fill it with grain, but they also dig a tunnel overnight, or however long it took. It seems really quick that this whole wedding gets organized. It seems like, it just happens overnight. But it was long enough that they were able to build a silo, fill it with grain, build a tunnel from the silo out in order to sneak out all the grain and sneak in, dun dun dun, a hot air balloon.
Right, and we get to that. But isn't there a part where you get a little bit of a good-natured, good-humored cross-dressing?
Well, that's after.
Okay, yeah.
This is the plan. So the professor manages, the professor is the one that he's like, okay, we're going to do this. We've got a plan. He's the brains behind this, right?
Yeah.
And then Vallo is the charisma,
the brawn.
And so you have this whole scene where you've got stuff happening and Captain Vallo's head is just standing there like just talking, like mouthing.
Yeah.
You know that he's giving speeches that are inspiring the people
gather round,
to
lads.
do all of this. Yes, more gather round. There's so many gather rounds.
Are you gathering? Did you gather around, lads? All right, let's
gather round. We're going to do stuff.
Let's gather around again.
And then people that are like wheeling different stuff, just very hurriedly, just running around doing stuff.
Okay, I read a review of this where somebody was calling it an A-Team style montage. Back in the day in the 80s, there was a show A-Team, and they would always have a little dun-dun, dun-dun, dun, little scene, and they would be like working on the van and doing saws and putting guns in things, and it would just be a montage. That's the 80s montage, and that's what this was. It was just like, let's play some music over it and show people, show him doing stuff, and people are like,
And man,
busy
that
work.
professor, for being an old man, is apparently super industrious because he's able to build a hot air balloon and make it work, which he had only heard about in theory. He was also able to create a liquid explosive.
Yeah, like a nitroglycerin, yeah.
And concentrate it to really, really high. And a submarine.
And a flamethrower and 2 tanks.
Right.
2 tanks.
All in the time that everybody's just building the silo and filling it with grain. And a tunnel, and everybody's running around, and I'm assuming that lots of people assist him, but still, he's the one having to be in charge of all of this, and he manages to accomplish it.
Yeah.
Which is pretty incredible.
Yeah, and the scene goes kooky.
And not he also flamethrowers and tanks and all of the stuff.
You're welcome.
Yeah. It's incredible. And they managed to come up with dresses for all 3 of Captain Vallo and Oho and the professor, who were all,
and Oho has to cover up his beard, because of he has a beard.
So they come in on this, cut forward to the actual parade and the wedding, and the 3 of them are in with a group of girls and with dresses, and they're coming up, and we know something amazing is going to happen, right?
Yeah.
But at that moment, the leader of the people, the rebellion, I guess the second in charge, whose name was Pablo. His name was Pablo.
It's Irish.
Right.
Pablo Murphy.
Decides that he's going, apparently he had no idea what everybody else was doing with Captain Vallo. And, he's now completely on his own, and he's going to try and rescue Consuela by himself by drawing a knife and sneaking up and trying to.
That doesn't work out, does it?
Right, and he gets caught, and he destroys what they were trying to do in rescuing Consuela. So he ends up actually derailing their entire plot, and so their whole point of dressing up in dresses and trying to get close in order to grab Consuela and get her out of there is derailed by their own person. It's so sad. And then just chaos ensues.
Yeah, massive land and sea battle between rebels, pirates, king's forces. It's fun and
land,
goofy.
Sea, and air.
Yes, Vallo's pirate ship gets destroyed. And it's a big boom. It's great. And then the pirates capture a navy ship to use. Baron Groot is killed. He can't suppress that rebellion anymore. He got suppressed. The governor's regime is defeated. And, of course, Vallo and Consuela get reunited.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, at the very end of the movie, we get a nice little smooch. And a swelling music. And the day is saved. And we've got this guy who started out very much so only looking out for himself. Complicated plans, but looking out for himself. And he has somehow fallen into this all because of the girl. What really changed his mind? Was it just the girl, or he just...
Seems so.
Yeah, but they don't build that romantic relationship up enough, like you said, to see why he is inspired, except need of plot, need of drama. The writers having 48 hours to come up with this story.
I mean, I think that's kind of the thing is,
Mm-hmm.
we're sitting here looking for meaning in this show, and the entire point of this movie is that our main character is looking for meaning in life.
Mm.
And he does end up finding it. We're just not really sure how. And I think that we end up finding meaning in this movie, and yet at the same time, not really sure how. There's meaning here, there is a point, there's a plot, and we get to it, but we kind of stumble into it the same way that our main character stumbles into a purpose for his life.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would say that that is, of anything that you can actually chew on, it's the importance of having a purpose for your life and a goal and some meaning.
Yeah, and we wouldn't have caught on to this as much if we didn't see the pirate and swashbuckling genre, and it built so much on story and novel, and those stories and novels had plot, they had characterization, they had historical background with it. And I think they took the material a little more seriously, especially when they were touching on historical things. This one looks completely made up. I don't think there's any historical anything in with this. They might as well just made up their own, names for that. They did make names for that. I mean,
yeah.
Everything's make them ups. And I think that lended it a credence of we're taking this seriously. The pirates were real. This stuff really happened. There's some of those touchstones there. There's the acting. I think they took things a little more seriously. Even when they had humorous moments, it's still, you went, okay, that was funny. But you also earnest. That's the word I'm looking for. There's an earnestness to it. Mm-hmm. And with this one, it's going, it's kind of like you're telling somebody about pirate movies, and you're forgetting about the meat of it, and you're just telling them about the icing on the cake. And how it's got fondant and all these little doodads on it. It's like, well, what about the cake? What's the cake really taste like? And you got guys like Tyrone Power and Errol Flynn, mm-hmm. and Olivia de Havilland and Basil Rathbone. Oh yeah, don't forget Basil. Just lending it almost like a Shakespearean element to it. We're taking this seriously, and these characters, we're giving it that meat. And with this, it just feels like, yeah, but don't you want some candy?
It's a candy movie, but at the same time, I feel like there still is, you can find substance in anything. And to me, I liked, even though I felt like the romance and how Consuela and Vallo end up together didn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I still liked Consuela as a character because you have, she's the only person, well, other than Pablo, who was kind of the leader in the absence of the leader, that had a purpose to her life. And that was, the real kind of call to Vallo of going, I am so passionate about this mission to give these people justice and give them representation and set them
freedom, yeah,
from the persecution and just the horrible things, situations that they're having to deal with. Because of my love for these people, I'm going to show you that there's something worth actually putting all of this charisma and intelligence, and ability that you have to lead, to a purpose.
Right.
And so she ended up calling him up to something higher. And yeah, I felt like that was, I wish that it had been done in a little bit more believable way, that we had seen a little bit more to the relationship, to why he actually, other than just she's pretty. You would think as a pirate captain that he's seen other pretty women before.
Yeah.
And you would think as a beautiful woman that she's seen other handsome men before. There's really nothing, these are complete opposites. You have somebody who's determined not to have a purpose for their life other than just to be a pirate and to take care of himself. He's a very selfish individual. And she is a very selfless individual. And yet, we want him to learn this lesson. We want him to see and be inspired by her vision,
Right.
and by her selflessness, which ends up happening. You know, this is what we want to have happen. We just don't quite understand how they got there. We feel like we're missing some stuff that kind of gets overwhelmed by all of the crazy fun that's being had.
Well, I will tell you this. I don't think we would have a movie series like the Pirates of the Caribbean series without something like this kind of movie, because it had it said we can be humorous, we can have the pirate adventure, we can hit plot points. I think the plot is a little bit more fun with the Pirate of the Caribbean movie in that series, but you knew that you had to have a actor or main character like a Jack Sparrow. You had to have that kind of that swagger and that kind of. I think as they dipped into parody with the Crimson Pirate, you could almost kind of go, okay, well, there can be some humor in this. We don't have to be dead serious. And I think there's that showed that you can have a mix of those two things and it worked well. So
kind of almost, I mean, The Princess Bride. I feel like, that's another one
yeah.
that has so much, it doesn't take itself seriously. There's so much fun. There's so much that's just over the top. And yet The Princess Bride is way more balanced in the way that it does it than The Crimson Pirate managed to be.
You can definitely see Wesley as the Dread Pirate Roberts. You can see a little bit of Errol Flynn, a little bit of Douglas Fairbanks Jr., a little bit of Tyrone Powers in there too. So it's these kind of movies. To sum it up a little bit, maybe these movies did inspire, and they still inspire people with just that sense of adventure and exploration and a freedom that you get when you're on the open waters.
Do I still feel like this kind of movie sets up women in an unrealistic way to believe that they can save the rogue?
Yes.
Yes, it does. And that's, kind of my biggest issue with this thing is that Hollywood romanticized that
roguish criminal,
that doesn't have a purpose or a plan or a, mission, and them being,
I can change him.
Yeah, changed and completely, 180 turnaround and happily ever after.
How many romance novels were set sail because of that? I mean,
saving the bad boy.
Yeah. And the thing is, there are a lot of women who fell for that in real life, and so they would write letters to guys in prison, and it's like, and the thing is, we talked about the rebel before. We talked a little about that with the Black Swan. Is there's something about that where it's a character arc where he's like, I'm not going to take things lying down. I'm not going to let people tell me what to do. And you're like, wow, that's a guy with a spine. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, though, if you follow the rules as written and the laws as written, you get like with Captain Blood. Captain Blood wouldn't have helped out that patient that he had. He would have let him die if he would have followed the rules as written. So in a way, you see some laws as unjust. And so it becomes justified to become that rebel. But then when do you get it? When do you get that situation where that's just not safe for a relationship to be with somebody who's not going to follow the rules and get taken to prison every 5 minutes? That's just, and that's dangerous. But danger sometimes can be attractive for short periods of time. But it's not something that you can sustain a relationship with.
I think with the Black Swan, you see that there's something there in him as a loyal person that has a moral compass. It may be not as good, but like I said last week, he's an Aladdin. He's a diamond in the rough, and you see the diamond that's there. With the next one, with
Peter Blood,
with Captain Blood. Yeah, you see this man who already has this strong moral compass, and you actually have the girl who just, she spends the time misunderstanding, but the more she gets to know him, he doesn't have to change for her to see who he is and actually fall in love, because
she may have to do a little changing.
Right, she's the one that had to change, and I mean, it really was just they're both good people. She just needed to see life,
a little bit of prejudice,
a little
and pride.
bit of life. She needed to grow up a little bit more. It's not that she necessarily needed to change; it's that she needed to grow and see the world a little bit more as it actually was, just some reality.
Yeah.
And then with this one, it's like you have this very strong female character who has this passion and this mission and this, purpose for, as the support of her father, she's been raised to see these inequalities and, to have a love that is driving her and is self-sacrifice. And a captain who's living only for himself and for what he can make, and really all that he has going for him is charisma, wit, and just dumb luck. Seems like a lot of it. His ability to throw himself into situations and actually make things work.
And that's not something to sustain a relationship on.
And it's
pure sheer luck.
There's not enough here for us to show him, or to show us that this relationship is in any way capable of lasting.
Yeah.
Or that he has actually learned and grown enough to be someone who is able to stand with her.
Yeah.
And you want to think that it's possible, and that he can be, that she's strong enough to inspire him.
Yeah.
And that, love will conquer all. And I mean, I hope that it does. But we don't really see enough of the diamond in the rough in his character to go, oh yeah, they're going to make it. He's actually a good person at heart.
And Burt Lancaster wanted to do a sequel to this some years later, and it didn't work out. And that's fine. I don't know if there was more that we needed to know about this guy, that there's just this hidden, this hidden depth that we didn't catch the first time around. I don't know. But I don't know if that's what this was really meant to be. A lot of things this movie came out it was post World War II. We're just trying to really, what other things were out in the movie theaters? A lot of science fiction movies, a lot of westerns. So you had a lot of adventure without a lot of explanation. Here's the girl, here's the scientist, here's the guy, here's the monster, here's the sheriff, here's the gunslinger. It's very paint by the numbers. I think that we were probably willing to tell more serious stories later, but the 50s were a lot of unserious B movies, kind of, let's get rears in the theaters, and let's get you watching things, and let's spend not as much money, let's get by on a shoestring budget if we can, and save money any way that we can, and just have fun making movies, and maybe that's good, but that's why I do like some of the older, like 30s and 40s movies, because there was just this, if there was an escapist thing with those, it was because there was a war going on. We were trying to maintain some morale and some joy, maybe, and that's why a lot of the musicals in that were very joyous. But I just see this Crimson Pirate movie as a B movie, just kind of fun, escapist.
With all of that, can we find a purpose in it? And I think that, for me, that was the main thing that I took away from it was, the movie's not so great at actually getting its point across, but what we do need to actually take from it is it's important for us to have a dream and a goal and a purpose to our lives. There's a mission that we're going on, and whether that's, I think that as a Christian, we all have this goal that's been given to us by God. It's the Great Commission, right?
Right.
Go into the world and preach the gospel, share the good news of what Jesus did. So we have a mission. we have a purpose. How that breaks down, there's going to be lots of other things that we can kind of funnel that into, and ways that we can, whether it's through our job, whether it's, whether you're going into ministry of some sort, whether you're going overseas, however, whether you become like me, a mother, and invest that into your children, into raising the next generations, wherever and however. But there needs to be a purpose for your life. It doesn't need to be just kind of drifting along and, I'm just out for myself and I don't have any, idea what I'm really doing, like Captain Vallo was.
And if you think about it, I just thought about this. I said, don't be aimless and bounce around all the time. I said, well, no wonder this movie had so much acrobatics in it. Maybe that was a connected tissue on that. Because he was bouncing from thing to thing, and I was like, that's an aimlessness to your life. Is in the short term, bouncing around from thing to thing, it feels like you're actually you're feeding something, but you're not feeding something that's going to last. Mm-hmm. It feels like an aimlessness, a purposelessness. And if it took this one girl, this pretty face that with a lady with passion, that maybe that hopefully will rub off on him and he'll settle down, maybe. But I don't know. This guy seems to be
so for his sake,
very bouncy.
I think that we need that as human beings. We need something to actually give our lives purpose,
an anchor.
Yeah, and having it be being willing to sacrifice for other people is an excellent thing to anchor yourself to, So overall, though that was kind of a hard theme to find among everything else, the movie ends up having a good message that's it's there. It's a little bit hidden, but it's there.
Yeah.
And so, I'll take that and I'll go, yeah, all right. Message received. Having a purpose in your life is important. And I'm really thankful that God doesn't just leave us floundering around through life, living completely for ourselves. That's what I got.
You don't want to be a pirate who doesn't do anything. You want to be a pirate who does something. And even the pirates who don't do anything actually end up doing something in their movie. So they get a purpose to their life. So maybe Vallo needs to...
That would be VeggieTales reference.
VeggieTales reference. And of course, we're parents, so you figure that out. But maybe Vallo needs a come to Jesus moment with a VeggieTales situation so he can actually, anchor his life to something deeper. But I don't know if Consuela's enough to do it. I hope she is, but I don't.
Hopefully so. We're only seeing a small little chapter out of the entire story of their lives. So we're going to hope all the best for these two characters.
Yes, and we get some more modern piracy with the film that you probably have all seen, the Pirates of the Caribbean.
Leia is going to be, our oldest daughter, is going to be joining me next week, and we'll have you back next month.
Yeah, so, I'll dance on in and we'll find something to do.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll hope that you are back with us next week for our finale of Pirate Month, and we'll let that be all. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.